to be sure they have long prepared for. But who might this diamond be? Will it be Lisha Beach, Miss GCI St. Vincent, Athalia Gloucester, Miss Flo, Kiwana Hackshaw, Miss Lynch Caribbean Brokers, Felicia Hector, Miss Instacash, Alvina Pinder, Miss Grenadine House, or Zayda Stevens, Miss KCCU? Your royal invitation to this grand gala must be secured with haste. Tier 1, $70, Tier 2, $80, and Tier 3, $100 from the Entice Lounge in Victoria Park, VJ's Restaurant, Perez City Store, Johnny's Barbershop, Four Shells, Video Extreme, and the Lotta booth at Peace Mo. Join me, gentle reader, and witness how royal dreams come true at the Lavu Boutique Hotel Miss SVG 2024 pageant on October 5th at 8 p.m. at Victoria Park.
Listen all day, every day on your favorite streaming platform. The clean, fresh sound. Rise and shine. Let's get ready to take on the day. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
All right, so we are jumping right back into another commentary segment. I'm here in SVG for those curious. It is now 10 minutes to 9. All right, so in studio, it's Dianna Cain, Dr. Gerard Thompson, and myself, Roleza Samuel. Coach, I noticed that you were trying to call, so if you wish, you can call now. Although we're going into another topic, and the topic stems from an article which was published by Loop News, and the article's title is "Alarm Raised Over Increased HIV/AIDS in Caribbean Youth." So it reads, the Joint United Nations Program on HIV/AIDS has raised alarm over the increasing incidence of HIV among young people in the Caribbean, highlighting that countries like Guyana and Suriname report alarming rates of 14%, while Barbados sees numbers as high as 37%. According to regional health officials, this trend necessitates immediate scrutiny and action. Dr. Richard Amnia emphasized that despite some progress, the decline in new infections among adolescents remains sluggish. He noted that globally, individuals aged 15 to 24 accounts for 28% of new HIV infections, with the Caribbean mirroring this concern at 27% of approximately 15,000 new cases. All right. If you wish to read more on this article, you can go to Loop News. The date on it was published on September 19th. All right. So you can read more on this article on Loop News. So we're just going to talk about this for about the next 9 minutes in terms of this increasing alarm of HIV/AIDS amongst Caribbean youth.
Yes.
Everyone.
As I got to say this, as an infectious disease specialist, I must talk on this. I think sadly, around the world, we tend to only talk about AIDS on World AIDS Day and do a flurry.
Mm-hmm.
AIDS has been a pandemic. I tell you, when I reflect back on my first case of HIV disease, when I reflect on my second and third and my 1,000th case, having traveled to Kenya, Nigeria, and different parts of the world, and seeing the attitude towards AIDS, the conspiracy theories. Now, where this is important, this article, is that, do you know the first 20 countries, or top 20 countries with HIV disease are all in Africa? The countries around the southern part of South Africa, one called Swaziland, it's called Eswatini or Lesotho, Botswana, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, all these. The rate of HIV disease, can you imagine this? 28%, 24%. In other words, 1 in 4, 1 in 5 persons has HIV. Imagine that. Now, all these African countries are there, but number 20 on the list turns out to be Barbados. Then, strangely enough, countries like Haiti, Bahamas come in. Bahamas comes at number 30, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines number 32. Now, what has happened over the years? Part of the UN development goals, Sustainable Development Goal 3.3, says we must end AIDS or get it under proper control by 2030. We're far from it. But many of these African countries have put their money into it and their resources. And guess what? They've achieved something called a 95-95-95. In other words, of the people who have AIDS, get 95% of them who knowing their status. Get not 95, but on treatment. And make sure the treatment is effective by stopping the virus from replicating. They're saying that, unfortunately, in certain parts of the Caribbean, that is not happening based on the resources. And that, as a result, young people who are now getting into, it's amazing, all the different reasons, early sex, debutantes,
you just said debutantes?
abuse.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. No, starting sex early, rape, child molestation, all those other things, violence, all these whole set of issues impact on this issue. We need to dig down deep with this. And I could tell you something. I presented in 1989 in Chicago at the International Conference on AIDS. AIDS in the elderly. I had 60 patients over the age of 60 who had come down with AIDS. And I presented that. But now, that ain't the issue. It's young people. And this article brings it home that in the Caribbean, whether they highlight islands and countries that stand out, and they make other countries feel, well, it's not us, it's them whom get mentioned. It's a big problem in the Caribbean. And we need to really address this. So that's my, sorry if I took up all 9 minutes. Really,
No, you didn't.
You know, but I have to say something on this, you know, and conspiracy theories and all this kind of stuff and so forth. We need to really deal with this.
What's one of the conspiracy theories, if you don't mind saying?
Some of the conspiracy theories have some basis.
One.
Who invented it, which lab released it, or that in Africa, guess what? They said that AIDS was not real. And during the 90s, the president of South Africa denied AIDS existed. And as a result, AIDS went rampant. That's why South Africa has in the region of something like how much millions of people infected with AIDS? South Africa has 9.23 million people infected with AIDS.
What's their population?
Their population is around 100 million and so forth. But that's the reason why they are at 14%. But they're one of the most infected countries in the world. Now, don't worry, Russian Federation is 2 million. Yes, China is about 2 million. The United States is up there too. But the southern part of Africa, Mozambique, 1 in 3, 1 in 4, 1 in 5 people with AIDS. It means that it's unbelievable what social life is like there, and the resources, what it takes away and robs a society of people who can't work, who get sick, and the health budget and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the well, over there, that's definitely one of those challenges, you know, not having proper access to things. In the Caribbean here in St. Vincent, I think we need to change our strategy. because we're constantly telling young people, and I might get some licks for this, but that is okay. We're constantly telling the young people abstain, 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 and we see them now abstain, but we still tell them abstain. Why aren't we changing the topic? Tell them about safe sex. Because no matter how much you preach abstinence, you see they're not abstaining, you're going to still tell them that. I think they should change it. Make them aware of the diseases. Show them pictures. Listen, this is how the thing going to look, That's what it's going to look like. Itchy and nasty and messy like that. That's what you want. Additionally, tell them about getting condoms. There are several places in the country you can get condoms for free. Dr. Thoms is here. You could tell me if I'm wrong or not. The Planned Parenthood, you can get condoms at Planned Parenthood.
You know where?
Right?
You know if there's a Planned Parenthood?
Hold on. First of all, there's a good question you asked me, because I was actually the place next to Searchlight. Is that Planned Parenthood?
Right.
Okay, so I know that condoms are there for free.
Mhm.
Also at the Ministry of Health building, that blue building opposite OT Tire, that's the Ministry of Health building, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so you can get there as well. The clinic, I know clinics used to give free condoms. I don't know if they still do, but the clinics used to give you free condoms as well. I think we should let the young people know where they can get these things, because for some of them, they may want it. They may be too afraid to go out. Listen, we got to change it for them, because we can't continue to tell them abstain. You could still say abstain, but the point I'm making is that you're telling them to don't do it and they're still doing it. So tell them how to do it safely.
But then at what age would you tell them this, so Dianna? Because I think this is where it's going to be a little bit ticklish for us as a society, right? We're going to tell them, okay, so if you're not going to abstain, you can have safe sex, right? And these are the places you can go and get condoms, etc. But at what age do we start telling them this message?
Well, is that no?
That's you see, yes. Definitely, it's one of the thing is abstention, but they do advocate the use of condoms. Then they advocate that people should know their status and only have sex with the person of the same status. In other words, strange enough, they're saying that if you're HIV positive, you must only have sex with somebody who's HIV positive. You understand? In other words, if it's your wife or whatever the case might be. Now, you remember COVID, we were hearing about different viruses and the strains and so forth.
Mhm.
I was on the first case in the United States of the HIV-2, a different AIDS virus that is there. It's a little milder than the HIV one, but there are now many, many different strains. And this is what causes drug resistance. This is what causes sometimes difficult to treat cases. So somebody who even has sex with the same person of the same status, that person may have a different type of strain, that you have a different strain too, and you're mixing it up. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? But they advocate all these things, and it's not just abstention, but abstention, especially if someone is a 14-year-old, 13-year-old, 14, and you push abstention. You know what I mean? But you also you push condoms as well and everything like that, and so on. And both type of condoms, the female condom as well as the male condom. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yes,
All right.
and we should. Sorry, not
Go
to
ahead.
prolong it. Just we must educate our young ladies that they must always have their own protection. Some men say if they go to link with a woman and she has her own condoms, they start, which is so foolish. They start thinking, oh, how many persons she's going with? Why does she have it? She's a sensible woman. She has her own. She's not depending on you, because you could show up and go, oh wait, I didn't get any. And then what? Women, get your own stuff. Don't care what they say. Listen to me. Your health is important. Okay.
All right, so
Yeah.
I'm going to steal another minute just to wrap this up, because it's already after 9. But I think part of the problem also has to do with young people's views on sex, right? Everybody is just loose and easy. Everything just loose and easy, right? And I think that many of them don't tie, let's say, sex into relationships, into long-term relationships. It is me and this person done today. I feel like giving this man bun, and I am going to boat, as we would say in our language, in our colloquialism. You're going to boat this man but they're not thinking about the consequences of the act itself. I think also way too many persons think of the only consequence of engaging in sex, especially for young women, is getting pregnant. There's a lot more to it than just getting pregnant, right? There are STDs, there are STIs, and all of these things are out there. But I think a lot of it has to do with our views on what sex is and what sex means. And to be honest, I am not surprised that the stats are continue to be high here in SVG. Well, it was in SVG from a report last year as well. I think as well, too, a greater effort needs to be pushed in terms of advocating for safe sexual practices. Back in the day when I was growing up, and I said this before on this program, that I used to hear a lot of ads in relation to practicing safe sex.
That's true.
Young people these days, they're not growing up hearing any of that, right? So where it is they're getting their education, I can say maybe it's from the schools, and maybe even in the schools, depending on some schools that they go, it's going to be not as maybe raw as we would prefer for it to be, right? Because you're going to have to sanitize it based on children and the school that they go in and that type of thing, So in terms of having that information direct and in the children's faces, that is not happening. And again, I am not sure what the Ministry of Health has in mind, but as Doc said, we were growing up and we were hearing it, but no, what is happening? Young people not hearing anything at all.
Another thing too, there, some persons are afraid for testing because you would advocate, go and test, know your status. Some people are afraid to know their status. They're afraid that they'll test and hey, I got this thing.
And I think also at Planned Parenthood, you can do the rapid HIV test there. I'm not sure if you could just walk in and do it.
I know at the Area National Security, right at Montrose Webb Street, opposite to Nemo,
right.
You can do rapid tests there.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay.
Yes, everybody right there at Nemo. Let me just say, that's my building, and I do rent it to them, but that's not the reason I'm saying that. From a public health point of view, you could get a confidential rapid test there with all the counseling. It's right at Webb Street there, right on the highway opposite Nemo. You see the signs there and so forth. Go and get it. Knowing your status.
And walk with your partner. If y'all, before you engage in sex, walk with your partner and two of you get tested so you could see the results, show each other the results.
Yes, but there's nothing wrong in going and getting it by yourself and then still before sex, encouraging your partner and so forth of that. You know what I mean? Because sometimes it's hard to get somebody to go along. But because the confidentiality aspects and so forth is important. You're negative, but your partner's positive. What do you do? And then what do you say? Yes, that's the point I'm saying. So therefore,
no, I shouldn't say that. Let me stop because that sounds like it's a stigma.
No, you said it. You said it.
No. That is
I know, but I'm saying subconsciously a lot of other people would say that.
Yes.
So therefore, that's why I challenge it and say, go on your own. Encourage the other person to go on their own, get a confidential treatment, and repeat it. I remember when I got my first choke with a needle in the United States. I'm talking about 1990. I was going crazy. I went and I tested every single week because
it was an accidental choke?
It was accidental choke with a needle. I was drawing blood and I got choked. I tested the patient. I tested myself, and luckily it was negative. But it taught me, and I tell you about I delivered a lecture up at the Apollo Theater, and I got literally almost stoned out. People were saying I'm an Uncle Tom. I know we can't go on with this, but they say I'm an Uncle Tom because of what I was expressing that they needed to do. They said, no, there's really no such thing as AIDS. And in Black communities around the world, matter of fact, Haiti accounts for 38% of the new cases that we have, in the Caribbean. Jamaica, other countries, and so high there too. But we need to bear down, and St. Vincent the Grenadines got an award in May for helping to prevent maternal to child transmission of AIDS. But listen, there's a lot more could be said on this. We're going to move on.
Yeah, we have to take a break, yes, right? Yeah. All right, so we are going to jump directly into our ECCB bank rates, which is a few minutes late. Apologies, folks. Apologies.